Good evening. I'm Bill Thompson, Chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York, and I'm pleased to officially call to order this public hearing on the calendar items on the agenda for the Board of Trustees' regular meeting on Monday, October 27th, 2025. On behalf of the Board, I'd like to thank the President, Dr. Daisy Coco DeFilippes, and her staff for their assistance in hosting this event. Before I call on the first speaker, I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues on the board, as well as members of the Chancellery who have joined me today. I'd like to welcome Vice Chair Sandra Wilkin, Trustee Henry Berger, Trustee Angelo Vivolo. I know that I'm not sure if Trustee John Verzani is here. Trustee Daniel Redden, and Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Operating Officer Hector Batista, Senior Vice Chancellor and General Counsel Derek Davis, Senior Vice Chancellor Sasha Cohen, Vice Chancellor Mohammed Abdullah, and Vice Chancellor Denise Maybeck. In order to ensure maximum participation, we ask that you please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. If you wish to speak on more than one item during your 3 minutes, please do so. If you're unable to finish your testimony in the allotted time, please notice that pursuant to the bylaws of the Board of Trustees, a summary of the testimonies and copies of your written statements will be distributed to the trustees and chancellery prior to the regular board meeting. Before you begin to speak, please identify yourself, state your affiliation for the record, identify the calendar item you will be addressing. Your remarks will be timed by Ms. Tisha Mitchell. You will be able to see how much time we have left by looking at the digital timer, which will flash yellow once you have 30 seconds left, and flash red and beep when your time is up. At this point, please complete your sentence, drop your written statement in the box near the lectern, and return to your seat. And now I'll ask the Secretary of the Board to call the speakers.
Mike Sanderson, followed by Nadine Derry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the trustees, members of the CUNY community, and public of New York. My name is Mike Sanderson, and my comment with citations has been submitted in writing as a letter to Chair Williams and is posted, or will be posted, to my website, mikesan.com. I was a student at the Graduate School of Public Health in person in fall 2024, and I wanted to provide a comment about that. But I must speak to a far more urgent agenda items, specifically the appointments of Dr. Kevin Martin and Dr. White at LaGuardia College and York College. This concerns the urgent matter of higher education accreditation. Their resolutions both highlight in the first paragraph their roles in handling accreditation. Higher education in America is under attack as part of 2025 in the Trump administration, and higher education accreditation has become a battleground. In 2023, Trump called accreditation my secret weapon. Now, I went to college in Florida, and hopefully you, although I've lived in New York since 2012, hopefully you're aware of the horrible things that are happening in higher education in Florida. And Ron DeSantis' latest effort is to create a new accreditor to replace independent accreditation with a state-controlled accreditor. It will be staffed by DeSantis' cronies to continue their culture war. I'm calling it the alligator accreditor. This ties directly to CUNY because of a national organization called the Council for Higher Education and Accreditation, known as CHIA, that lists 5 CUNY colleges as institutional members. While this organization's mission is to defend independent accreditation, I have evidence from a public records request in Florida that it is secretly supporting and encouraging Ron DeSantis' state-controlled accreditor. So my question is CUNY funding a secret effort to destroy independent accreditation? I'm not accusing anyone of CUNY of wrongdoing. I'm bringing this to your attention as fiduciaries of the board. In case I run out of time again, my full comment is submitted in writing. The institutions include York College and LaGuardia Community College, and here, Colston. The effort was secret. I'm asking for an investigation into what this organization has been saying and how its president has been operating. And it's not just institutional. A CHIA board member in Florida apparently received negative feedback, and I have the email where the president said, quote, "No good deed goes unpunished," unquote. The punishment the president is referring to is objecting to helping this state-controlled accreditor. And there's nothing to stop the Trump administration from demanding, after it's established, that public universities in New York submit to this accreditor. My comment with citations again has been submitted in writing. I thank you for your work on behalf of CUNY. I know this is unwelcome, and I thank you for your attention to it.
Thank you. Nadine Derry, followed by Nora Al-Sahabi.
Greetings to the Board of Butchers. You are the perfect representation of parasitic American capitalism. You neoliberal vultures are eating at the body of the working class society and profiting off of it. You time and time again refuse to divest. You refuse to divest from a Nazi state, an openly Nazi state that has stated themselves that they wish to kill, torture, or displace every Palestinian from their native land. Do you enjoy watching our pain and suffering? It seems you do. Actually, it seems you take pleasure in manufacturing it. You suspend students like Hadika Malik who fought for a change, fought for a university that focused on education rather than profit. A university that completely divested and stood openly against the murderous Zionist state and the despicable ideology itself. You try to tie our hands back and silence our voices with your dumb Henderson rules. They were developed to suppress the black and brown student movement in the 1969, and they're being deployed for the same purpose now. To hell with every single one of you. The fact that you refuse to disclose means you have something to hide. I already know what it is. Money, money, more money. Money into your pockets. APAC money, lobby money, genocide money, money into Lockheed's pockets, money into Raytheon's pockets. Money kills. Money manufactures the bullets that are shot into the skulls of babies back home. Money funds AI technology that makes this genocide not only possible, but as efficient as possible and as painful as possible. Your money develops the gates and chains of Israel's concentration camps and makes sure the Israeli occupation soldiers are well equipped to mentally and physically torture, rape, humiliate, and bring the epitome of suffering and starvation among the Palestinian men, women, and children kidnapped by the settler state. There is 600,000 dead in Trustees. Your hands are red. And Hassan Sharif, say his name. He was a journalist and a loving father, and you killed him with your money. Salah al-Jafrawi, say his name. He was a man of God who protected his people and documented their suffering and hoped that monsters like you guys would cease your contributions to this genocide. Hind Rajab, say her name. It could have very well been your money that manufactured those 355 bullets that murdered her and her family. We would be here for years if I made you recite every name and story of every Palestinian slaughtered with your consent and your complicity. Trustees, have some shame. Every martyr has a name.
Thank you. Nora Al-Sahabi, followed by Vijay Mutapuli.
Hi, my name is Nura. I'm a CUNY law student, and I'll be speaking to agenda item 3E, the ex libris contract renewal. So according to Al Jazeera, since October 10th, there have been 100 Palestinians killed in Gaza. And these numbers are unconfirmed and inaccurate, and we all know that the number is most likely higher. A ceasefire, where Palestinians ceased and the so-called state of Israel continues to fire. Israel has continued its airstrikes and shootings like it's nobody's business. You may ask, how is this relevant to this hearing? It is the heart and soul of why we are here today. Palestine in Gaza live in everything that we do. We have a responsibility to make sure that we are not complicit in genocide. Because, unfortunately, this school's inability to simply boycott and find alternatives is one of the reasons that Israel is able to carry out the genocide with barely any opposition. Yes, CUNY is directly complicit. We have asked CUNY in the past to divest from ex libris and were met with blank faces and silence. Now that the renewal for the contracts is up, let us remind you why it should not happen. During the Nakba in 1948, Zionist forces violently displaced and dispossessed 750,000 Palestinians of their land. Palestinian refugees are still prohibited from returning from which Israel forcibly removed them. And Maneha is one of more than 500 Palestinian villages that were ethnically cleansed during the Nakba. Today, Israel calls this stolen land Jerusalem Technology Park. This is where Ex Libris is headquartered. It is actively colonizing the land of Palestine, and we are funding this. When we invest in Israeli companies, we continue business as usual. We are not here to beg. We are not here to ask nicely and try to convince you. We are here to inform you and to put you on notice. If you didn't know it beforehand, you know it now. How much longer can you ignore the blood running through your fingers? How much longer can you ignore that you are complicit in the genocide? Because no matter what you try to convince yourself, these are simply facts. And investing in the Israeli corporation means that you are funding the genocide, the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And you, as the Board of Butchers, do not speak for us. As CUNY students, as CUNY faculty and staff, you speak only for yourselves. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Vidya Matapuli, sorry.
My name is Vidya Mutapille. Your apology is not accepted. Today I'll be reading an excerpt from The Popular University. The Popular University is a collection of stories that helps us understand our world, and more importantly, what we are trying to build. It asks us, what does it look like to live in a people's university? What do you dream of? How do we get there? Everyone is invited into the collective imagining and storytelling. Except the Board of Trustees, cops, and other war profiteers. This present and wretched condition is the product of your imaginations, and you will be obsolete in ours. Today we begin with Chapter 1, the Uncharcuterie Board. It was said many years ago that the university was once run by a board. Not the charcuterie kind, though it may have been better that way, but the trustee kind, which was neither to be trusted nor kind. The individuals that lurked on it composed a particularly vicious and insidious breed, widely known for their unique hearing abilities. Despite possessing a variety of oddly shaped ears, they shared the fascinating characteristic of registering people's pleas and miseries and hopes and dreams as the melancholy rattling of too few coins shaken in an old coffee can. It should be unsurprising, then, that they navigated the dark times of their existence with an uncanny echolocation for coin and pale, wide eyes that glitter only at the possibility of profit. For like all foul things, they coveted beyond all else wealth and power. They salivated at the chance to buy investment, they would whisper, and then shout, think of the future. And they would giddily prance about selling everything worth protecting for silly little men to tell them the slope of their lines was increasing. Stocks, they would say, the yield is climbing up into the sky, where they would be condensed and converted to bombs, to rain down upon a population they pretended not to hate. And in the year of 2025, on Palestinians. Through manufactured scarcity, their lust for money only grew, and alongside it grew rot. The decay in their hearts spread to classrooms, a black mold leaching into the people's lungs. It was a system sickness, a sickness system. Such was the university in those times, a festering, disjointed mass oozing towards profit. At its head, the board, and in its bondage, the people, their debt, their minds, their labor, their land, and their brilliance. At every turn, the war profiteering board attempted to entice scavengers with the globular remnants of what they call education. They preached, "You are hungry, come, we will share with you the wealth, all this is for you." But even the hungry began to pay less and less heed to the constructions of the board, for it endured through time as unsharing and utterly uncharcuterie.
The next speaker is Hajar Khalid, followed by Olivia Rinkus.
Hi, I'm Hunter Holland. I'm a CUNY law student. I'm here to talk today and to speak on the issue of Agenda Item 3E, which concerns the potential renewal of a contract with Ex Libris and why it is imperative that you not go through with this. Ex Libris is an Israeli library technology company that is used by over 5,500 educational institutions as of today. The company is headquartered in Malha Technology Park in southwestern Jerusalem, but our story starts back in 1948. The land that now hosts these headquarters and data centers used to be Palestinian land in the village of Meniha. During the Nakba, an extremely traumatic memory for the Palestinian people, the Israeli military inflicted a horrible mass violence ethnic cleansing, which included the dispossession of Palestinian land. The Israeli occupation forced more than 750,000 Palestinians to flee out of their homes, and of that, 2,250 of them came from the village of Al-Maliha, which today hosts one of the largest integrated library system companies in the world. Israel has continued to violate international law since its inception by upholding a settler-occupied apartheid state. The continued unlawful expansion of illegal settlements into the West Bank and continued annexation of Palestinian land, long before the beginning of the genocide we are currently witnessing, has only been possible because of the political and, more importantly, financial backing of the United States. Every year, as citizens of this country, without our consent and against our will, the United States sends billions of dollars of taxpayer money to continue to support this regime. The importance of the boycott, divest, and sanctions movement is that it specifically calls and highlights the ways in which we have become materially complicit in aiding and abetting the Israeli apartheid state and financing the genocide in Gaza. We cannot turn away from the fact that any investment or continued partnership with Israeli companies is abhorrent and it is deeply shameful. Our university should be a place where we can come together as equals and as students trying to pursue knowledge in a space that is welcoming and aligned with the goals of our education, which is to foster collaboration and belonging in a much larger tradition than ourselves. We cannot do this knowing that the institution, the very libraries that are supposed to be our safe spaces of refuge, have walls that are coated in the blood of Palestinians. The tide turned in the public conception about the evils of apartheid in South Africa, in part because of their relentless advocacy to divest from funding the apartheid regime, because the very acts being committed were so offensive to any moral person's understanding of justice that the mere association would be inconceivable. I am telling you now that the same thing must happen here, and if the evils of history must repeat itself, then at least the solutions to divest from funding any Israeli company should be the next step forward for this board, starting with not renewing the contract with ex-leaders.
Thank you. Olivia Rinkus, followed by Jane Guskin.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Olivia Rinkus, and I'm a student at CUNY Law School. I am testifying today in strong opposition to item 3E on the agenda, which authorizes a contract with Ex Libris for library services. I'm strongly opposed to the formation of this contract. Ex Libris is an Israeli company located on stolen Palestinian land. It is directly benefited from the destruction of Palestine and the theft of land and resources. While this contract is being formatted, universities in Palestine are being bombed and human lives are being taken. Here in New York at CUNY, students such as Tariq Bizruk are being arrested or expelled for speaking out against this genocide, and faculty members are losing their jobs. The complicity is shameful. CUNY and other public institutions need to be taking steps to divest and not further enmeshing themselves with the genocide of Palestinian people. I do not want my tax dollars and tuition dollars to support the death and destruction of Palestine. Our public institutions need to be disclosing and divesting immediately. Thank you.
Jane Guskin.
Hi, Jane Guskin, CUNY Grad Center and Queens College. I'm going to read an excerpt of a resolution approved on September 19th, 2025 by the plenary of the Doctoral and Graduate Student Council, DGSC, which is the elected student governing body of the CUNY Graduate Center. Whereas the use of confrontational and disruptive tactics by campus protesters at CUNY is justified by the moral imperative to end the settler colonial genocide being carried out by the United States and Israel that has intentionally slaughtered hundreds of thousands of Palestinian adults, children, infants, disabled people, healthcare workers, journalists, poets, and so many more, every one of whom had a name, a family, and a life that mattered, has carried out the largest mass disabling event in history, has destroyed all universities in Gaza, along with housing, sources of water and food, and the environment itself, and is continuing to deliberately starve and displace the entire population with the full complicity of CUNY's Chancellor, Board of Trustees, and CUNY College presidents. Therefore, be it resolved that the DGSC calls for CUNY to immediately reinstate the fired-for adjuncts, reverse all disciplinary actions against Hadika Arsu-Malik and all other CUNY students and workers facing retaliation for their advocacy for Palestinian rights, and stop cooperating with NYPD's efforts to repress or pursue charges against CUNY students, workers, and community members for engaging in protest-related activity. Be it further resolved that the DGSC calls on CUNY to adopt a policy of zero tolerance for its officers' brutal and violent actions against members of the CUNY community, to terminate the employment of all officers engaged in violence and abuse of power, to apologize and pay reparations for the brutality unleashed on protesters, to prohibit NYPD and other law enforcement agencies from entering campus, and to respect the right of all CUNY community members to express opposition to genocide. Be it further resolved that the DGSC calls on CUNY to abolish its quote-unquote public safety structure and practice as it currently exists, and instead dedicate resources to provide true safety support systems for CUNY community members, from mental health to migrant defense to reproductive justice, making CUNY a popular and sanctuary university that respects the right of students to
Since there are no other speakers listed,
There are no other speakers. Let me thank everyone for coming this evening. Our hearing's adjourned.